Hello, and welcome to another episode of Edison TV. I'm delighted to be joined today by Rahul Agrawal, Chief Medical Officer and Head of R&D at Cereno Scientific. Cereno recently announced additional analysis from the Expanded Access Program for its lead candidate CS1, and today we'll be taking a closer look at what these latest findings mean for the program and the company's development plans. Rahul, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
So, Rahul, you recently presented additional data from the Expanded Access Program. Can you briefly summarize the key takeaways from this data set?
Sure. So the results of the Extended Access Program are, if you would like, real-world clinical observations of individual patient responses. So not in a controlled efficacy setting. This is something very important to bear in mind. And there, in a progressive disease like pulmonary arterial hypertension, we had very encouraging signals. Among the 6 patients who completed the 12 months of treatment, 5 of the 6 had a stable or even improved functional class. And this is something remarkable. We had included patients in functional class 2 and 3, and despite the long period that we have been observing, they're still stable or improving. Similarly, 5 of the 6 had either a stable or improved biomarker of NT-proBNP, which is one of the primary biomarkers one looks at when one is following the development of the patients, the development of the disease, I should say. In addition to that, we also saw other markers, like 3 of the 6 had a stable or improved REVEAL risk score. And there were even several who had improved 6-minute walking distance. All of this should be seen in the light of the fact that pulmonary arterial hypertension is a progressive disease. And even a stabilization is actually a big win for patients, for their caretakers, and the physicians. And allow me to add maybe one more, and that is we had, as you may recall, also used CardioMEMS, a non-invasive continuous hemodynamic monitoring. And here we saw that 3 of the 5 evaluable patients had either a stable or a reduced mean pulmonary artery pressure. So all in all, very promising signals that really give us even more positivity to progress into the Phase IIb trial, which will be in a controlled, randomized setting on a global level.
So, Rahul, looking at the incremental data presented from the EAP, we see that most of the patients who completed the program maintained or improved their clinical status over the 12-month follow-up period. But given the small number of patients and the fact that this wasn't a controlled study, how should investors interpret these results?
Thank you very much, but allow me to maybe just take a step back. I would like to say that CS1 has reached an important milestone in its development. Based on the encouraging Phase IIa results, we're now preparing for our Phase IIb trial. Alongside that, our Expanded Access Program has allowed us to gain valuable clinical experience in patients with pulmonary arterial hypertension. This is the indication we're working on with CS1. While, and this is something we should be always keeping in mind, while the Extended Access Program, EAP, is not a clinical trial, it has played, we feel, an important role in the overall development of the program and has provided meaningful insights, if you would like, that complement our ongoing clinical research and the program that we're about to embark on. So the primary purpose of the Extended Access Program is to provide treatment access, not to generate statistically robust efficacy data. So all the patients that we're having, we're delighted that we're being able to give them access to our drug. This was at the request of the investigators as well as the patients.
Great. And the primary goal, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
was to assess the long-term safety and tolerability of CS1 and not really efficacy. So, what do these latest data tell us about CS1's safety profile, uh, particularly for long-term use in patients with PAH?
I think it is very important to note um, that our drug is a safe and well tolerated drug with a long and well established record of the same, especially in the lower dosages. And keep in mind that this really differentiates us from many of the drugs which are on the market for the treatment of pulmonary arterial hypertension. Uh, and that's why we are really excited to evaluate now our compound CS1 in a controlled clinical global setting, which we are embarking on now.
Great. And just moving on to the Fluida imaging sub-study. Now, this did not yield significant findings. Can you explain why only 3 patients were enrolled in this imaging study, and how much weight should be placed on these results when assessing the overall EAP data?
Thank you. And this is a very important question. Allow me to maybe correct you briefly that the results they did not that you were asking that they did not reveal any important results. Allow me to just take a step back here again. First, Fluida was a sub-study of the an exploratory component of the extended access program. So it was never intended to be a pivotal assessment or a basis for drawing definite conclusions. Number two, enrollment was limited because the sub-study required the patients to undergo highly specialized imaging at selected center. It was one center with 3 patients, and that's why we could enroll, or it was only possible to enroll 3 patients. So, given that small sample size, I don't think it's appropriate to really place significant weight from that exploratory analysis. Indeed, and actually, it is really a hypothesis generating investigation that we did. The overall assessment of the EAP should be based on the totality of the evidence, which is again something very positive. We saw positive signals regarding efficacy. We saw no deterioration of the functional class. We even saw a stabilization and an improvement in some. The same for some biomarkers. So all of these things are very encouraging signals to progress into our phase IIb trial, which we are right now also doing with full speed ahead, if I may put it that way.
Great. I think this is quite useful to understand. And talking about encouraging signals, another encouraging aspect of the study was that CS1 appeared to be well tolerated alongside existing PAH treatments, including sotatercept, which has recently been approved. So, how does this shape your thinking around where CS1 could fit in within the PAH treatment landscape?
We have to keep in mind that most of the drugs which are currently available are vasodilators. Sotatercept has a different approach, but it did not show disease modification. We will be, and we are planning to have the first disease modifying signals. And that is how we have also designed our phase IIb trial. That means we will be having all the patients having all the standard of care drugs, including sotatercept, and we'll be giving on top of that CS1. So we think all these insights are very important to continue with more confidence and embark on this global phase IIb trial, which we are about to initiate, and the preparations are ongoing there. It is a big milestone for a biotech to be starting a global trial of this magnitude.
That's great, Rahul. And you touched upon it right there, but can you just update us on how the preparations for the phase 2b study are going, and what are some of the key milestones investors should be watching out for over the coming months?
Yeah, I mean, as you can already hear from my responses, we are really excited with the imminent start of the phase IIb trial. There are many pieces to puzzle together, and documentation to get approved before starting a study. And the team is really working hard. Please keep in mind, we have a world-class steering committee with some of the top opinion leaders here. We have engaged with a top CRO here, which has a global network. We are trying to recruit really some of the foremost specialized PH centers in 12 countries. We're planning on 65 sites with 125 patients. So we are really at a very good stage. We are nearing activation of the first clinical sites. We had our first investigators meeting already, and now we're looking forward to start screen the patients and enroll the first patient in the very near future. So these are really exciting times, and naturally for every trial, because we are a very regulated industry and it is about patients, naturally we have to abide and look out for that we are doing everything in the correct fashion. That's why there are many administrative processes on a local, on a national, and a global level that we have to respect, and we're doing that. And so these are being finalized as we speak, and we're really in the final stages of having hopefully the next milestones in the coming days and weeks.
Excellent, and we look forward to the initiation of the Phase IIb study. Rahul, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your insights into the Expanded Access Program and the Phase IIb plans. For our viewers keen to learn more about Cereno Scientific, please visit edisongroup.com for our ongoing coverage of the company.
Thank you very much for having me, Jyoti.
Thank you again, Rahul.